What's up, everybody? This is Musicians Forced to Podcast. I'm Hugh Sullivan, the keyboardist. There's Brandon, and there's no one behind the camera because I'm normally behind the camera, but I'm up here now.
There he is. He got moved up. He was promoted to
Yeah.
the west seat.
I'll be back over there next week.
Yeah.
But one of the things, we just got on a tangent when we were filming with Graham a minute ago, and you started talking about writing a song for like a high school competition for what was it, a talent show?
It was a talent show, yep.
And that got me thinking, like, I know I've always like tried to write music, and like as like a little kid, I'd like sing songs and stuff. My parents would tell me about, like, oh, you used to write these songs. But like once I actually started getting like serious about it, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna try and write some music. And like, looking back on it, it's always like a little cringy.
Sure.
And like I see other people who like started writing music a long time ago, and they're just like, no, I'm proud of this. And I'm like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so like now I can see 10 years down the line, I'll look back at this, and even though I've grown as a musician, I'll still be proud of what we're doing now. But it just got me wondering, like, when did you write your first song?
Well, I can think about around the time I started writing whole songs, and I would have been I was junior high school for sure. So, but where I went to school, junior high started in 6th grade. So I would have been somewhere around maybe 11 years old, something like that, when I was actually starting to write songs. And I'm almost 49 now. So that's a long time. But I can remember a couple of them that stand out to me that I was really proud of then. And I'm still pretty proud of today. Now, what you're saying about listening to like other people listening to some of the stuff that they wrote and they're still proud of, I get where you're like, what?
Yeah.
Because some things that I wrote back then, I listen to and I feel that way. But those songs for me, the ones that never like really made it, that was like where my boneyard started.
Yeah.
And so like the ones that I actually recorded and put out there in the world today, I think for me, they still hold up.
I mean, that makes sense to me, just because like we've got
maybe the style of them was maybe more popular at that time, and maybe not so much now.
Sure.
But the songs themselves, yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that like I knew when I joined this band. I knew that you had written some songs, like, and they were finished before this band was started. And so, that was one of the many ways that this band, writes songs is, sometimes someone already has one done, and then we Harlem Hayfield-ify it. But like when you first shared like the old recording of like Charlie or Titanic, or like, even some of the ones that are in our boneyard now because we've messed with them, and I've been like, oh my God, like, yeah, hearing like that more like 90s feel or whatever, like, like, I don't know if it's not pop. I don't know. I don't even know what genre it was when you were writing it. You can probably hear Mikey blowing his nose right now. He's sick. Mikey's sick.
I started playing guitar when I was around 8, maybe 9 years old. My older brother played drums, and so I wanted to play something, and I couldn't play drums, so it had to be some other rock instrument. So it was either guitar or bass. So I just picked the guitar because I wanted to be in his band, And cool. So I started playing. I asked my brother when I was a kid, if I learn how to play guitar, can I be in your band? And he was like, yeah. So like I knew he was blowing me off, right? I knew that.
But you were like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it.
And so yeah, I was like maybe 9 or 10 or something, and I was like, well, he said I could. So if I learn how to play this thing, then he's gonna let me play in his band. And at the time,
how much older is he?
He's 4 years older than me.
Okay.
So at the time, like Guns N' Roses was popular and bands like that, like super dirty 80s bands. And Paradise City was a big song. Welcome to the Jungle was a big song. So I thought, I'm going to learn some of these songs. So I had a snare drum because I played in school band with the snare drum.
Nice.
Asked my mom, I want to trade this thing in. I don't want a school band anymore. I want a guitar. And she was like, no, you're playing school band. I was like, I don't want to do that. Talked her into it. traded the snare drum in, got a piece of shit guitar,
Nice.
and then went back to her house where I lived with her. My brother lived with my dad. And dude, I just put a tape in the tape recorder over and over and over.
So just all by ear,
Rewind. I would sit in my room for hours. I mean, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, just trying to figure out how to do this thing. I had no
That's awesome.
teacher, nothing. It was just like, how do I make sounds out of this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I figured it out. And so I remember the very first song I ever learned that actually made sense to my ears was I Hate Myself for Loving You, Joan Jett.
Nice.
Well, it's a really easy song. It's a really easy riff, but like I figured out how to play power chords because I would also get magazines like Guitar Player magazine and stuff like that. We would have like tablature in there.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I mean, it would tell you how to read the tab. And so that's how I figured out how to play like power chords. Power chords that was the holy chalice at that time.
Right.
So once I figured that out and I knew how to play power chords, then I could just listen to the tape. So I'm listening to and learning Guns N' Roses songs. And I remember I learned Paradise City and I went back to my dad's house on a weekend. I had my guitar, my tiny little amplifier. And I told my brother, I was like, hey, I can play it. And he was like, what? I was like, the songs you wanted to play. You wanted to play Welcome to the Jungle and Paradise City and Mr. Brownstone. And I learned all 3 of them.
Hell yeah.
And he was like, no, you didn't. I was a kid. It's like, no, you didn't. And I got my shit out, sat down, and I played all 3 of them for him. And my brother I could tell in his face that he was like proud, but he was also disappointed because he had to let me in his band. And so
that realization, like,
he was like, God damn it. He did it. And so he was like, okay, all right, well, you can be in my band. And so, he didn't even have a band. Like, I mean, he had a couple of guys that would come jam every once in a while, but to me, I was like, I'm the lead guitar player.
You earned your way into that room.
I earned my way. All right, so now I'm sorry, I had to get all that out of my system. So that's how I started playing songs, and then it wasn't very long after that that I realized I wanted to write songs, you know, and so that all started when I was around 9 or 10, and by the time I was 11, 12, I wanted to write songs. I think part of that was because in between there, my parents got divorced. I moved to a different town with my mom, and I met a bunch of misfit kids that lived in that neighborhood. And some of them knew how to play like guitar and drums and bass a little bit. So I obviously went straight to that crowd. And so all of a sudden there's other kids who know how to do what I'm doing. And we were instantly the misfits. But we hung together and we were kind of family, you know?
Nice.
So we decided we were going to start writing songs. And that's when I met Chris Lorash. So I was probably 11 or 12 years old. Chris, you know, he's our other guitar player, but we kind of grew up the same way in kind of a dysfunctional family. And that's where our paths crossed. And we started writing songs together at about 12 years old.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So
and they're still writing songs together.
Yeah, today.
That's pretty.
I'm maybe 49 this year.
That's pretty.
And we still write songs together.
That's badass.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. The reason I brought this up was because like I always messed around. I did some like solo stuff, you know, like solo stuff that makes it sound like I branched out on my own, like from a thing like, oh, I did some solo stuff. That meant like I wrote by myself because I was too embarrassed to show anybody, you know? Mm-hmm. So I had like my songs that I wrote like that. But I remember one of my best friends in high school was a really badass pianist. He's the guy I showed you the music from recently. Like I reconnected with him.
Yep.
And, you know, he goes by DeMeo on Spotify and his shit's really cool. I think he calls the genre, or I think the genre he's part of actually exists, called like sad boy bedroom pop.
Okay, he invented his own genre.
I think it exists.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but like,
how did that exist and not Rust Belt Soul?
I have no fucking clue. But the music is cool as shit, and so I was just like, oh no way, you like, because we hadn't talked in like 10 years, and I was just like, hey, what's up, man? Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, nothing, just doing music, and I'm like, so am I, and like that's cool. We were in musical theater together in high school, and so like we spent a lot of time together. He had a big Steinway piano in his house when I'd go visit. It's so
expensive one.
Yeah, he was like doing some like, you know, he was playing like ragtime and classical music, where I bailed from that pretty early in my like lessons. I was just like, I'm a classic rock guy. I'm just gonna, you know, this is less my speed, so I'm gonna stay over here. And Louis was classically trained, but we still, we were like, we should write some music.
This is Canaryville guy?
No, Little Italy.
Okay.
Yeah. We like started writing this one song, and it was like, when the demons roamed the earth, and it had this like weird thing about the beginning of time, and it was like, it had this weird, like, he was really into David Bowie, like Ziggy Stardust era David Bowie. Okay. So we had this like weird shit, and I just remember being like, what the fuck, like listening back to it, being like, at the time being like really excited about it, but listening back and being like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And so like there were a couple of songs like that, and like, again, listening to his stuff now, I'm just like, I can hear little bits of that.
That's awesome.
But it's like more fine tuned now, and like, and obviously has a lot better like production value than what we were doing in high school.
Well, I may have lied a little bit about like the first songs that I wrote. I don't know. I'm not sure if we got into that. Like I told you, when Chris and I started writing songs, I'm not sure if we got into the songs, but like when you just told me that story, there was a song when I first started playing guitar before I met Chris. So I'm like, 5th grade or 6th grade or whatever. I was playing guitar. I was good enough to be in my brother's band, right? And I did write a song one night. A buddy of mine who was like a 6th grade, but we were spending the night. I was spending the night at his apartment in Camelot, and we decided we were going to sleep on the deck. So like an apartment deck is like 4 feet by like 9 feet or something.
Sure.
It was tiny, but we took the sleeping bags out because his mom and his mom's boyfriend were inside, and they were fighting. We're like, we're going out there. And so we go out to the deck. They live on the 3rd floor. So we're looking at the sky, and this kid, man, his name was Guy. That was his name.
Nice.
And he was in love with this girl from the neighborhood named Elizabeth. And he told me, he said, she doesn't know that I like her, but I think I want to write her a song. And I was like, okay. I haven't thought about this in years until you tell me about your guy here. So he wants to write her a song.
Were you his Cyrano? Were you writing for him to serenade
her? He said
her?
to me, he goes, hey man, you play guitar. Like you could help me write this song. And I'm like, I was a kid, and I was like, I've never written a song. I don't know how to do that. He's like, you can do it. You can help me write this song. I'm like, okay. So me and Guy are buddies. I'm like, I'm gonna try and help him. So I run down to my apartment, which is 104. I'm on the 1st floor. So I grab my little shitty guitar, and I come back over to his side, and we go up. We go back out on the deck, and I'm trying to play chords and stuff, know. And then he says to me, he goes, man, I want it to be kind of like, in that style of like the clarinet, like Kenny G. I'm like, oh, well, I don't play. I don't know how to do that,
Yeah.
And then he goes, that one song, it's like, and I was like, oh yeah, that Kenny G's, and it's a really famous song. And he goes, yeah. So we started writing lyrics to that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And he came up with, Elizabeth, I dream of you every night and day, while I'm glancing at the stars that are so far away. Damn. See, listen to Mikey laughing.
I know.
Hey, Kenny G didn't know that there were words to his song, but Guy wrote them that night. He was 11, and Guy wrote them.
That's beautiful.
Kenny may have missed out on a Grammy or two because of that. That's the first song I ever wrote.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I helped him with those lyrics.
You helped somebody write it. Did he sing it to her? Do you know?
Well, all I know is that I am going to have to get on my ASCAP BMI thing and make sure that I'm not losing out on royalties for that.
Yeah. No, the first songs I ever wrote, I didn't bother with lyrics for a long time. I would just like, I was just like a weird little morose kid on the piano. We had a little upright piano. Everything was always like E minor, way down in the bass keys, just like and like,
look serious.
And everyone's just like, Jesus, what's this fucking like? And I come upstairs, I'm like, hey guys, and like going to play with my toys. But then as soon as I sit down on the piano, it was just like dark. Yeah. So everything I wrote like way back in the day was like real dark,
I get
like
that.
instrumental
You know
music.
what? I think when I started writing songs, I think I probably did the same thing. I remember writing a lot of like kind of ethereal, like minor,
yeah,
melodic type things that and I think that's because when you first discover that you can put these chords and shapes together yourself, it needs to be powerful. And minor stuff is powerful.
it is.
Right?
Yeah,
It's not happy go lucky, it's powerful. So
I didn't take piano lessons until second grade, but I had been playing the piano for a long time before then because like my dad would sit me in front of this little Casio and like I knew how to do like the from
yeah.
Walk of Life.
Yeah.
That was one of the first songs I ever learned was Dire Straits' Walk of Life.
You knew how to do that before you started taking piano lessons?
Yeah, like my dad or uncle
That's
would like
why.
sit down
Because
and
you had a Casio. They showed you how to do some shit.
Yeah.
You took to it and they were like, oh, piano lessons for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So because it was Walk of Life and I'm trying to remember
You said I didn't take piano lessons until second grade.
Yeah.
That means you were like 7.
I guess yeah.
Yeah. I didn't do that until I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
So that's why you were good at it already.
I was and the funny thing was I was good enough to when I showed up and they showed me what I was going to have to do for my beginner's lessons.
Mhm.
I still have the books at home. And I remember the lesson book, there was a song called Two Black Cats.
Uh-huh.
And it was 2 notes. And it was more to learn how to read like a tempo. So it was da 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 da, and that was it. And I was just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I was just like, where's the Billy Joel?
Yes.
Like I came in here to get better, not to take a step back. And when we were in when we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I was like, it's funny, I was just like, I was excited, but I was just like, it's just a bunch of stuff. I've seen pictures of it online. What's the difference? And like, I started getting like teary eyed a few times in there. And one of the times was I took a picture. It was
Beatles.
Well, that section fucked me up. Yes,
I know.
yes,
I was there. Yeah.
The Beatles got me. But even before the Beatles, there was a big display, and it was it Jerry Lee Lewis who did Great Balls of Fire?
Yep.
It was his keyboard. And I was laughing my ass off because when I first went to take those lessons, and I kind of like, little second grade me kind of like scoffed at, what I was being asked to do. And my piano teacher was this very old nun named Sister Elaine. And she was just like, young man, here. She was just like, you think I'm full of shit? And whatever words she used for that. And she pulls out the sheet music for Great Balls of Fire. And she just like, bam, 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 and she starts playing the song and she's kind of like humming along. And she gets to the part where it's like, and she's doing all the like boogie-woogie stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, and dragging down. And she's standing up while she's playing. This old nun is fucking hammering the keys. And then after she gets done, she closes the book and she was just like, if you want to do this, you got to learn this first. And I was just like,
that's like in Braveheart.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want to learn to use this, first learn to use this.
That's exactly what it was.
It's Braveheart.
Yeah, I
love that.
I got bravehearted by a nun.
She bravehearted your fucking keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. William Wallace.
Okay, going back to music we've written, I still can say like that until this band, 99% of it is just lyrics, but like there's just I don't have anything lyrically that I'm proud of, like pre Hayfield.
Well, you sent me some stuff recently that I think is really great.
Well, it's because I've been around people and kind of heard your methods for songwriting.
Sure.
Because I don't know. I've always either like, because when I was in high school, I was one of those like, just I told you I was playing the keyboard, all minor keys and shit, and so like. All the stuff I was trying to write was just like extremely brooding, like way over the top brooding. Yeah. Like you've got a pretty nice household and a very loving family and a support group around you.
You feel like you need to write that way.
Yeah.
Because you want to be artistic.
Yeah.
You want to you feel like you need to get some point across, right?
Yeah.
And if you live in a place that's like pretty happy, and like everybody kind of gets along, then it's hard to come up with these impactful things.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It's just like, finding something to write up. So
I
for
get
some
it.
reason, I always went like, but it was always like wannabe deep, like it was.
That's what I'm. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
And so even when I got to a point where I had a point of view or something that I actually did want to say, it was just like, here's why I'm sad, and here's what I'm going to talk about today. Here's the bullet points. There was no like
Yeah.
poetry to it. And if I was like, all right, let's get more poetic, it'd be like the depths of my soul and the void in my heart. Like, okay, now I've overcorrected, and so I just scrapped it.
I did the exact same thing when I was really young. I would write that way. I would write like in a very dark, brooding way, like you said, And then at some point, I think I realized like that's too much. Like, knock it off, And so then I would end up. I kind of gave myself a rule that like if I felt myself going down that path, like falling down that hill of getting too brooding and dark and whatever for no reason, then I would stop that and I would write. I would tell myself just write about something that you see, something that you feel, something that but get away from that. Get yourself out of that hole. Drag yourself out of there. That's how Charlie came about. Is that I was kind of in one of those like where I'm just like trying to be deep, I guess. And I knew I was like, dude, get the fuck out of this.
You're forcing
like,
it.
You don't really need to be deep about shit right now. Write about something that's anything else interesting to you. And at that time, I had been watching this multi-part documentary about Charlie Manson at that time. And I was like, I need subject matter to get out of this writing hole. And I'm like, oh, write about Charlie Manson. Fuck it. I don't care if the whole song is about him or serial killers or whatever, but get out of that mode and write about him. And that's how Charlie came about. So
that's pretty cool.
I gotta pee, dude.
All right, I can't remember where we left off, but we both took a pee break, and that seems like a good time to wrap this up. So this has been Musicians Forced to Podcast with keyboardist Hugh and guitarist Brandon. Follow, subscribe,
smash
follow us on every platform, buy our stuff, send us lots of hugs and good juju.
Do all those things. Okay. All right, bye.